Hi everyone, welcome to a reading vlog. This is my first vlog of 2024 and I wanted to continue with my exploring sci-fi. In 2023 I had big plans for reading lots of sci-fi, and I was going to do this vlog series, and I did one video in that series, and then I just wasn't in the mood to read sci-fi for pretty much the rest of the year until December. So I didn't really continue or complete that project, but I wanted to continue on with it in 2024 and just maybe tweak it a little bit, do it a little bit differently. I think one of my issues before was that I tried to read multiple sci-fi all in 1 month so that I could kind of fit it into 1 month's vlog, and then that kind of burned me out on sci-fi because it's just not a genre that I read a lot of usually. So my new plan is to do this more as just kind of casually documenting any sci-fi that I happen to read throughout the year. I'm not reading specific sci-fi at specific times or anything like that. It's just going to be as I read sci-fi, documenting it. When I have enough books or footage for a vlog, I'll just end that vlog, put it together, and then start the next one. So it's going to be a little bit more casual. It probably won't seem very different on your end, but for me, I think that it will maybe make this more sustainable for me, because it'll just be as I mood read sci-fi throughout the year, just kind of documenting it. But the purpose of this project is to figure out what I like in sci-fi, because I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and part of that is because I just don't know what sci-fi to pick up. I don't know what kind of sci-fi I like. So I am trying to read some different sci-fi and find either if there are subgenres that I can rely on, or certain tropes that I'm looking for, or even just a few go-to authors, just figure out some way to find new sci-fi books for myself. In the first vlog, which I will link in the description if you want to watch it, I did talk a little bit about my previous experience with sci-fi, what kind of sci-fi I have read up until this point, and some of the predictions that I have as to things that I may or may not like in sci-fi as I go through this process of exploring the genre. But I'm not going to go through all of that again here, but that'll be linked in the description if you want to watch the first installment of this, and hopefully there will be more installments after this. Okay, but just to kind of catch up on where I am with my sci-fi reading, since the last vlog in December of 2023, I did read a couple of sci-fi books. I read the first 2 books in the First Sister trilogy by Lyndon A. Lewis, which was The First Sister and The Second Rebel, and I really enjoyed those. I will link in the description my December wrap-up, because I talked a little bit about those, and I'm sure I'll talk more about them a little bit later. But I read those, and then I also read The Vor Game by Lois McMaster-Bujold, which was part of the Vorkosigan saga, which is a sci-fi series that I am forever trying to figure out, do I actually like this series? I never quite love it, but I also generally just kind of enjoy it enough to keep going, just because I like Lois McMaster-Bujold as an author and just the way that she writes characters. Let's talk about what I am reading right now for kicking off this vlog. This is my first read of 2024, which is Mem by Bethany C. Morrow. I always start off the year with a reread, and I also particularly like it if I can reread a novella, because I just feel like it starts the year off on the right foot. You start off with a book that you will enjoy, and then also if it's a novella, you can feel accomplished very quickly. So I like to reread a novella if I can. And I first read Mem I think in like January or February of 2020, and I loved it. And so I have been wanting to reread it, and I decided to pick it up this year. So this is relatively low sci-fi and is maybe more in line with some of the other sci-fi that I have read. I tend to gravitate more towards like lower sci-fi types of books. My air conditioning is coming on, so hopefully it's not too loud. I'm trying out filming in my living room to see how that goes, but it is much louder in here because you can hear like my refrigerator going, and you can hear the air conditioning coming on, and like all of the things. Anyways, but this is a alternate history sci-fi with just a little bit of like advanced technology in it. It's not like, you know, space and aliens kind of sci-fi. I am about halfway into my reread of Mem right now, and I am really enjoying it. I'm glad that I picked this one for my first read of the year, but I will tell you more about it once I am done with it, since it's so short, and I will probably be finishing it today. But I just wanted to kick off the vlog, catch you up on what I have been reading in sci-fi and what I am starting the year off with, and I will talk to you later when I am finished with Mem. Hello, so it is evening now, but I have finished Mem, and I really enjoyed my reread and my first read of 2024, but let me tell you a little bit more about Mem, what it's about, and all of that. So Mem is set in an alternate history in 1920s Montreal, where they've created this technology where they can remove memories from people's minds. When they do that, the memory manifests as what they call a mem, which is essentially like a duplicate of the person that the memory was taken out of. But this mem just kind of replays that one memory on repeat. They can't interact with the world around them. They can't make new memories. They're really just a manifestation of this one memory on loop. And so the mems are usually kept in this place called the vault for safekeeping. However, our main character that we're following in this is a mem, but she is different from all of the other mems, and they don't really know why, because she is able to interact with the world. She's able to make new memories. She does have the memory that was, you know, extracted and created her, but she's able to essentially live in the world as a regular person. And so she has been doing that. She's been living in the world when at the beginning of the book she is recalled to the vault. And so that kind of kicks off her trying to first of all figure out like why was she recalled, but then in the process she learns more about the like mem technology, some of the effects that it has had over the years. She's just kind of like learning more about it, and then also she's really exploring her own identity, because she has the memories of this person, but she is not that person. And so what does that mean for her, and why is she different from all of the other mems and all of this? So it is a little bit like exploring the technology and the you know, repercussions of this type of technology, and how you know, removing memories affects people, but then also this search of identity for the main character about what is it like if you have all of the memories of somebody else, what does that mean for your own identity and who you are and who they are. I really loved rereading this. Memory is a theme that I just really enjoy in books. I love books that explore memory in this way, especially the way that memory relates to like identity and self-concept, and the way that we learn and form who we are through our memories and experiences. What would it mean if we didn't have those memories anymore, and what do we lose by not having them? Those are all things that I just think are really interesting, and I have read a couple of books, this being one of them, that you know, explores those questions in various ways. So that is something that I am very prone to enjoying, just because I like memory as a theme. But I also just think this is a really great novella. I think it's really interesting. You know, it is short, so it can't go super in depth in anything, but I think for what it is, it really you know, achieves what it's trying to do, of kind of bringing up some interesting questions about memory and identity and how our memories shape us and form who we are, how we learn from them, and the good and the bad of being able to, like, what if we were able to take these memories away? The characters in this are very engaging, which is always very important in such a short book because you don't have a lot of time to draw people in. But this is one that I love recommending to people. I think that you know, it's a book that's like short and easy to get into, but it is thoughtful, and I really appreciate that. I think that this, beyond just the fact that I like books about memory, I think this is more in line with a lot of the other sci-fi that I have read, that I tend to read sci-fi that is like lower sci-fi. Like, it's not, I think I said it's not like space and aliens kind of sci-fi. It's more on the like just kind of speculative sci-fi. It has like an advanced technology or like one thing about our world that's changed or tweaked, and kind of looking at, you know, what would that mean for our society or our world, or, you know, an individual, whatever. So I think this is more similar to a lot of the sci-fi that I have previously read and enjoyed. And I think I gave this 5 stars again. I think I gave it 5 stars the first time I read it. I'm giving it 5 stars again. And then I know I said I was going to spread out my sci-fi reading a little bit more and not like binge too much sci-fi at once so I don't burn myself out. But I am genuinely still in the mood for reading sci-fi, so I am going to be starting another sci-fi book right away, which is going to be The Last Hero by Lyndon A. Lewis. This is the 3rd and final book in the First Sister trilogy. So I really wanted to pick this one up right now for a couple of reasons. One, as I said, I'm still in the mood for sci-fi, so, you know, trying to capitalize on that. But also, you know, I read the first 2 books in December, and I'm still trying to make an effort to really binge series so that I get to experience them, you know, when I still remember everything. And also, bonus is that this is on my list of top 10 books to read in 2024, and I do always love to try and tackle one of these as early in the year as I can, just again to kind of start my year off on the right foot. I feel like I am sounding like superstitious, but I'm going to be picking up The Last Hero, and I am very excited to be getting to this one. Hello, it is like 11:30, I think, and I am about to go to bed, but I am making some tea, and I thought I would give you a little update on my reading The Last Hero while it steeps, because I have not given you an update in a while. But I am very tired. Probably don't even, I'm making lavender chamomile tea, so I probably don't even need it because I'm very sleepy right now. Because I had a long day of like running errands and doing things, and I'm ready to go to bed. But it doesn't hurt. I like this tea, but that is, I'm already off topic. Anyway, so while that steeps, we'll do a little update on reading The Last Hero. So I am about a quarter of the way into The Last Hero. This is the last book in the First Sister trilogy by Lyndon A. Lewis. This series, I'll explain a little bit, I guess, about the first book since this is the last one. But in the first book, it is set in kind of a future of our world, because like Earth and Mars and everything do exist, but we have, you know, colonized these other planets. We're following 2 sides of like a centuries-long war. On one side is the Akari, who are extremely technologically advanced, and they have done some horrific things to make those advancements. But one of the main characters that we're following is Leto, who is an elite warrior called a duelist, which are these people who fight in pairs, and they have neural implants so they can like speak mind to mind and fight as like a single unit. And at the beginning of the first book, Leto is assigned to track down and kill his former partner who has disappeared and joined a rebel group. We do also get kind of like epistolary entries from the partner that he's hunting down, kind of explaining like how they ended up where they did and like why they joined this group, but they're like voice messages that they left for Leto. The other side of this war is the Genes, who are much less technologically advanced for two reasons. One is a lack of resources, because there are like certain resources that they need to like power these technologies, which the Genes don't have access to. And then also because of their religion, they have a kind of pervasive religion that follows the mother, and like the sisterhood. That part of it is that it forbids the use of certain technologies, especially ones that affect or change like the human body. But one of the like main parts of this religion is the sisterhood, which the sisters are these like nameless and voiceless women who like literally have their voices removed, and they serve to like unburden soldiers. Essentially, like they take confession and pray for them, but they also unburden them of their lust. So they're pretty much like have no agency. The sisters have like no agency over their own bodies, and they are pretty much at the whim of any soldier like on the ship that they serve, with the exception of the first sister, who only serves the captain, and so she kind of has like a degree of protection in that way. And so the main character that we're following is the first sister on the ship Juno. The captain, at the beginning of the book, the captain that she's been serving retires and leaves, and a new captain appears. The sisterhood asks her to spy on this new captain, and so she is now getting closer to the new captain, who's kind of an enigma to her, but she's getting closer to them and spying on them and trying to like secure her place as the first sister on this ship, and things get complicated. So that is the first book and kind of where it all starts. There are lots of like interesting pieces to this world and reveals, especially reveals about like people's identities. I feel like every single book in this series, we get some reveal about somebody's identity, and then in the next book, that person is like a perspective that we're reading from. So like every book, we get more and more and more perspectives. However, I don't think it gets confusing, because it is sort of building on the perspectives. It's not like introducing a ton of perspectives like all at once or anything. So yeah, I'm about a quarter of the way into the third book. Obviously, I can't really get into too much detail as it's the final book, but you know, I am liking it. I'm glad to be back with these characters. There are some things that I had predicted like that would happen in this that have happened, and so that's kind of fun when like my predictions are proven true. I haven't predicted like everything, and like some of my predictions have been incorrect, but I have definitely called some things, which I am happy about. And then also, I think my main feeling at this point is kind of a holdover from how I felt about the second book. So okay, so in the first book, one of the things that I really liked about it was that I felt like there were some very interesting character dynamics. We didn't get a ton of like character depth because it was a very fast-moving plot, but the characters were still very interesting, and the dynamics between some of the characters were really interesting in those relationships. And that was something I really liked in the first book. And then in the second book, it did a thing that I feel like a lot of second books do, where they sort of like pull the characters apart and send them on their own little quests, which I personally don't love, because I usually like to see the characters all interacting with each other. So the second book did that, and it was a good book and I liked it. just wanted them to get together and like interact with each other. And that is kind of one of my main hopes for this third book, is that the characters will have more interactions between them, that some of them might like meet up here and there and we can really get more of those dynamics. So far, they are not really like coming together that much, and they're still kind of like off on their own journeys at this point, but I am hoping that like as we get more into the book that they will kind of converge and we will get more of those dynamics. At the moment, I am at a point where it just feels like everything is going wrong. Everyone's plans are falling apart. Everything is going wrong right now, and it is very stressful. We will see where this goes next, but that is my update for this. I am going to try and read some more tonight. I'm not sure how much I will get read tomorrow because I need to clean. Actually, this mug that I am making my tea in is my last clean mug. I need to do dishes. So tomorrow, and I also need to just do like general cleaning and stuff like that. So tomorrow, I'm going to be spending some time cleaning, so I may not have as much time to read this, but maybe I'll start an audiobook. Hello, so as predicted, I did not get much physical reading done. I didn't make a lot of progress in The Last Hero, but I did start an audiobook while I was cleaning. I got a lot of cleaning done, so that's good. That was the goal for today. But I did start an audiobook, and the audiobook that I started was a sci-fi book. So I am continuing to not follow my plan of like spacing out my sci-fi books, but I was in the mood to read this, so it's happening. Anyway, I started listening to Gandhi by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is part of the Vorkosigan saga, which is a very long series. It's like at least 14 books. This series, I am forever trying to figure out, like, do I actually like this series or not? Because I like the way that Lois McMaster Bujold writes characters, and I've liked a lot of her fantasy books, but with this sci-fi book, or sci-fi series, like, it's always just good enough that I kind of want to keep going, but not so good that I'm like excited about it. So I just keep reading them, trying to figure out how I feel about the series. But this next book in the series, I kind of went into it thinking I might like this one more than some previous installments, because Miles's like circumstances and like status has kind of changed in this one in compared to other ones. Actually, let me explain a little bit about what the series is about, at least at a very high level. We are primarily following Miles Vorkosigan. He lives on the planet, or he's from the planet Barriar, which is a very like militaristic culture and is also a very ableist culture. And Miles has physical disabilities, and in this society, like, he is part of the Vorkosigan family, which is this very like high status military family. It's almost like nobility, or maybe they are nobility, I guess, in their culture. So he has this status through his family and like privilege through his family, but also deals with a lot of prejudice and things because of this very like ableist culture that he lives in. And so he's kind of always trying to, or having to, prove himself, and people often, you know, either reject him or underestimate him because of this. But as a character, or as a person, he is very like intelligent and clever and charismatic and strategic, and is the kind of person who often gets himself into trouble, but also can talk himself out of trouble or strategize his way out of trouble, and is often kind of flying by the seat of his pants, but it always works out. You know, he always makes it work. So he is a very like fun character in that way. He is very like charming and charismatic, and really wins people over. So he's a very fun character to follow in that way. And in previous books, we were following him obviously when he was younger, and he kept kind of accidentally getting into these complicated situations. And in this book, in Ganda, he's kind of reached a point where he has graduated from school. He has a new status and job that sort of gives him a little bit more freedom, I guess, in what he can do. And so him like getting in and out of trouble is actually kind of part of his job now, instead of being something that he does accidentally and keeps like getting in trouble for, which I think is why I felt like I might like this book better, just because that element of it was removed and it was more about like him being kind of good at his job because his job now played to his strengths, instead of like him constantly getting into trouble. But in Ganda, he and I think it's his cousin, is his cousin's name Ivan? Man, I was just listening to this and like the names have already escaped my brain. But they are sent on a diplomatic mission to Ganda, which has a very different like culture and social statuses and very like complex like social interactions, and especially very different like gender politics. But their empress, I think, has recently died, and so they are on a diplomatic mission to attend the empress's funeral. But while they are there, some unexpected things inevitably happen. They end up in possession of a mysterious object. A servant of the late empress dies unexpectedly and suspiciously, and they start getting, of course, pulled into, you know, conspiracies and shenanigans. And so I think that so far, I think I'm probably at least like halfway into the book at this point. But so far, I am liking this one, I think, a little bit more than some of the previous ones. I like it that this is kind of part of his job now. And as always, as a character, Miles is very, as I said, charismatic. He's very clever. Is interesting to learn about Ganda. Whenever they get into like the more long-winded explanations of the like political implications of the things that are going on, I do honestly like zone out a little bit, because like sometimes I can be very into like the political intricacies of fantasy worlds and all of that, and sometimes it just like doesn't land right for me. And in this case, I'm like less interested in that, and I'm just kind of like, all right, cool, like I understand enough to understand what's going on, but I do zone out a smidge during the more like political sections of this. I do think though that this book, or probably this whole series, these are kind of like the perfect amount of interesting for like cleaning. For me, at least. They are like interesting enough that I am engaged, but not like so interesting that I'm like, oh, I can't pause it because if I need to like pause it to do something else, you know, or it's not like so complex that I can't like listen to it while I'm doing other things. So I feel like it's a really good amount of like engaging and not too complex for cleaning. So it worked out really well as my cleaning audiobook. Now though that I am done cleaning, I don't know how much progress I'm going to make on this. I'm here to do another update. It's been a while since I did one of these. I have not been very good about keeping up with updating, but here we are. So I finished Ganda, and I don't really have much more to say about it than what I said before, which kind of happens with a lot of her books, I think, or a lot of the books in this series. I think because that's part of why like I keep trying to figure out, do I even like these? Because I do, you know, keep reading them, but I never have a lot of thoughts and feelings about them. I'm just kind of like, that happened. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I think it was a slightly higher 3.5 stars than some of the other ones. I did like this one a little bit more than some of the previous ones in the series, and for the reasons that I had kind of initially thought that I might like this because Miles's like situation is a little bit different. So this did not help me decide whether I'm going to continue on with the series. I guess at the moment I'm thinking I am going to continue on, but not necessarily with great urgency because I just feel like it was fine. Like, that happened. But I think I mentioned before, it is a really good book for me, at least, to listen to like while I'm cleaning, because it's like just the right amount of engaging and it's not like overly complicated, so it's easy to just sort of listen to while I'm doing other things. So at least I'll be able to use books in this series if I ever need just something to listen to while I do other stuff. However, like, I listened to most of the book while I was cleaning, and then it took me a really long time to finish the book because when I didn't have an activity like that, it was not so interesting that I felt the need to listen to it in like any other context. Anyway, so that is Gandhi. The Last Hero, I am 3/4 of the way into this now, and I feel like my feelings have stayed pretty similar. Like, the story is interesting, we're learning more about this world as they're like kind of encountering new people and new places. I think, you know, I always enjoy these characters, I think they're very interesting, but I still am wishing that the characters would have more interaction with each other, and it's not really doing what I was hoping for. I was really hoping that more of this would be focused on the characters kind of reconnecting. However, it seems like at the point where I'm at, they are kind of all finally coming together, and this last quarter of the book where everything is gonna like come to fruition, it seems like people are gonna come back together, and we're gonna get to see some of those interactions. It's just not happening in the way that I wanted, because I was kind of hoping that it would be more like these characters would get to come back together and we would get to see them like have time to like reconnect or be mad at each other depending on the situation, but just like have some time to explore those dynamics. And this seems more like everything's just gonna converge very quickly at the end and have some like maybe high intensity interactions. But what I really wanted was more drawn out like interactions, you know, getting to know each other again, or like dealing with the betrayals or the ups and downs and like the ways that people have changed, not like just the intensity of seeing someone for the first time, you know? So that's where I'm at. I have, I said, 1/4 of the book left, and I am thinking that maybe I'll be able to finish this today. As I said, I got Timber here visiting me, so he is going to be hanging out, and I think oh, he's gonna hit the tripod. Sorry if it moves, he's leaning on it. But I think we're just going to spend the day curled up in my bed reading this book and finishing it. Hello, so it's been a while since I last updated this vlog. I started this in January and it is now June, so it has been quite a few months. I was editing the clips for this vlog and realized that I never like wrapped it up, completed the vlog, so I am gonna do that now and do my very best to remember any updates that I had about my reading, because I did finish reading The Last Hero by Lyndon A. Lewis, and that last quarter I read very quickly. I read pretty much the last quarter all in one day because it's like everything kind of comes crashing back together and the pace really picks up. In general, I think this series is a fairly fast-paced series, but this, like, you know, at the end of this last book, everything happens. Overall, I think that this book was kind of doing something a little bit different than what I personally wanted from it. It stayed more plot focused, and while it had interesting characters and dynamics, I think that it just wasn't as focused on them as I wanted it to be, particularly the relationships. It definitely had like individual character arcs, but what I really wanted more of was those character interactions and dynamics to develop those relationships more. And in this last quarter, we get a little bit of like these characters coming back together because they're all converging on this one like pivotal moment, and we do get some of those like character dynamics, but it's all very brief and condensed, and you know, there are much bigger and more important things happening, and I just kind of wanted it to be like over a longer period of the book, kind of grappling with those. So that was a thing that I was a little bit disappointed by in this. I still really had a lot of fun reading it. I feel like it was a good conclusion to the story. However, I do feel like it was a little heavy-handed with some of the like lessons that you're supposed to learn from this, which like, sometimes I don't mind heavy-handedness, but in this case it felt a little bit like it was not trusting the reader to like get it on their own, and was really trying to be like, do you understand, this is the point I'm trying to make. So that also not my favorite, but not necessarily something that like truly hindered my enjoyment of the book. So that is so my final thoughts on The Last Hero. I think I gave this one 4 stars, so still a really solid book. In this series, like each book has gone down in star rating slightly. However, that means it started at like the first book was 5 stars, second book was 4.5, third book was 4 stars. So overall, still a really solid series that I definitely enjoyed. All right, so that is the end of this vlog. It now has a conclusion. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.